Welcome to another episode of the USADA Pitch. My guest today is Scott Davern, who is an elite education lead here on our USADA education team. Scott, welcome to your first episode of the Pitch. How's it going today?
It's going really good, Avery. Just a beautiful day here in Colorado Springs and just another busy day at USADA as always. So it's going well.
Agreed. So with the conclusion of the Beijing Games, Scott is joining us to provide a post-games recap of how USADA works to ensure that athletes and support personnel are educated prior to major games. So Scott, what are your main responsibilities when it comes to major games?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'm primarily responsible for, making sure athletes and athlete support personnel are, have all the education that they need prior to going to the games. And this starts as soon as the rules come out. So once the rules come out, we read them as a team, and then we figure out, what initiatives and create educational materials for all USA credentialed athletes and athlete support personnel. And then after that, I start working with the national governing bodies and the USOPC to identify who, how, and when we can reach those stakeholders.
Awesome. A lot of people, a lot of organizations involved.
Yes.
So what are some of the education initiatives the elite education team implemented for the Beijing Winter Games?
Yeah, another great question. So with the exception of maintaining the 24-hour, 24/7 hotline, I should say, for the athletes at the games, USADA's education team's role is pretty much wrapped up when the games start, respectively for Paralympics and the Olympics. Leading up to the games, though, we try to get in front of as many sport disciplines with face-to-face games-specific education as possible. And for these games, we facilitated several Beijing-specific presentations, reaching over 140 athletes and athlete support personnel. So that was really cool to see. We also maintained tutorial compliance reports for the USOPC. And on top of that, every credentialed staff and athlete did take the required clean sport course, and 178 athletes and athlete support personnel took the optional course. So that was really cool that people were buying into that. It's a great thing for clean sport. And then lastly, this really shows how important it is to Team USA. And then in collaboration with our communications department, we also provide a webpage that's always updated with the game-specific information. And physically, we sent 400 bags of education materials to the athletes that were in Beijing. So lots of things that, touch points to try to get to the athletes.
That is a lot. So how does the education team know if these initiatives actually worked well for athletes or not?
Yeah, and that's a question we ask ourselves often. So what we do is we thoroughly evaluate all of our programs, not just games education. And then once the games end, we will send a survey to our stakeholders. And hopefully the idea is to better understand if we met our goals, but also position American athletes, athlete support personnel to be informed advocates for clean sport and ensure they receive effective education.
Awesome. So how does a games year impact everything else USADA's education team needs to complete each year?
It's a huge impact. We're always busy as it is. So in a games year, we're even more busy, let alone back-to-back games in a row with Tokyo and then Beijing. So the way we're able to do this is by ensuring we have solidified processes for everything we do to run efficiently. And although I lead the games education and I'm primarily responsible for everything, it couldn't be accomplished without everyone on the team working as a well-oiled machine. Every member of this elite education team plays a huge role in the games education, and the varied skill sets amongst the team allows for success during this time.
Now that the games have wrapped up, what's next on the agenda for you?
Yeah, so once the game's wrapped up, we do a full debrief internally, but then we also do a debrief with the USOPC just to make sure our initiatives are in line and how can we be better in the future for games like Paris 2024. And after that, I'm really able to focus more intensely on the athlete presenter program as well as the DCO educator program.
Makes sense. All right, Scott, great to hear from you. Thanks so much for sharing.
Yeah, no problem, Avery. Thank you for having me.
We'll see everyone for another episode of The Pitch soon.